Since I know that you are all hungry, we are going to start with the speeches right now. There is one thing I would like to ask you. Simply, when the speeches are going to come here, that you are quiet. Because if you are not quiet, then you're not going to be able to listen what our esteemed guests have to say, and this would be a shame. So you can talk when I speak, but when they come, be quiet, please. Because we had a problem with this every year, so let's try to do this better this year. With this, let me introduce first our strategic partner, basically a company, a director who have been with us for so many years, and it's my great pleasure to welcome on the floor Mr. Janez Krabec, the director of RICO.
I wouldn't like that Peter would be the teacher, you know. It would he's very serious, too serious for me. But RICO is engineer company here in Slovenia, and I would like to express some of the reasons why I enjoy supporting this forum for so many years. Maybe I could start like our mayor, you know, because I have at least 3 things in common with him. First, I am also 11 years with this forum, so I could also address you like dear friends, like him. Second, my permanent address is in this beautiful city, in Bled. You know, I am the citizen of Bled. I am very honored and proud of this. I'm proud because this is, I think, the most beautiful place and very, very important icon of Slovenia. And I'm sure if your colleagues from abroad that you left at home or family would know where are you, they would say, oh, you go in such a beautiful paradise and you will even get paid for it. So I'm sure that they will be somehow jealous. The second, you know, I'm also here in Slovenia the president of all honorable councillors. So somehow I'm also the part of Slovenia diplomacy, or at least I work much more than ordinary people with Slovenia diplomacy, and I have to confess that I love to work with Slovenia diplomacy because really they are with this paradigm that they have to help us businessmen, that they have to help us to open new working places, to enter new markets, and of course if I can give something back in return, then I'm always available. And I always said to Mr. Ravec, RICO is going to support this Bled Forum at least so long as this paradigm will be in Foreign Ministry of Slovenia. And the third, RICO has the slogan, Global Engineering for the Happiness of the People. And I heard today many times that somehow we can solve our problems if we would have much more global approach. And second, I heard today, and I will keep it in mind, you know, we are an engineer company, we are doing constructing, and I remember that it's much better than building the walls, obstacles, building the bridges. So I'm going to specialize myself with our company on the bridges. And I'm sure that also this forum helps us to build the bridges. Today, I will never forget also another thing from today's panel, when the journalist, this distinguished journalist, asked who from the young people would like to be the politician. And there were no hands. And then he asked, okay, how many people would, how many you would start your own business, start up? And I suppose that there were many hands, you know. I would say, then I asked why we don't want to be the politicians. And I'm confessing, you know, I don't think that politics is something bad. I think the politicians has really the toughest job in the world, you know, because all the problems that they facing are very complex. They have to face so many interests, etc., etc. But I don't think that the politics should be just for the politicians. I'm sure that the politics is too serious. That's why I'm sure that we have to also face those problems, we from the civil society or we businessmen. And that's why Rico is here, and that's why I'm here, and I'm happy that Bled has such a forum, and so long we are going to support this. I hope that you will get the same impressions, how valuable is this forum when you will leave Bled tomorrow, and that it will help us to build the bridges and to ensure somehow our future to make more safe and to better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yanis, for this speech. Now I would like to, since we are in Bled and we are always talking that Bled is an icon of Slovenian tourism, so in this sense, you know, it's a great honor and pleasure for us to also welcome here in Bled on this stage and tomorrow in the panel, Secretary General of the World Touristic Organization, Mr. Talib Rifai. Please, Mr. Rifai.
Thank you so much, Peter. Well, I listened very carefully to what Yanis said. And unlike him, this is my first Bled meeting. Yet, I'm going to take an exception and say, I'm very happy to be amongst friends. You really make everybody feel here that you're part of a bigger family. So I welcome you all, friends of now and in the future. I also am very, very happy to have with us here a wonderful person that I have come to know lately very well, Danilo Turk, the previous former president of the Republic of Slovenia, who I wish him all the best in his plans, and he has a lot of supporters, a lot of people that would share his views and his ideas in achieving what he wants to achieve. I'm very honored and happy to see you and talk to you again. I still remember our last dinner in Madrid. We were sitting on a hill overlooking the city of Madrid, and we extended our conversations into the late hour of the night. Thank you for being with us. I'm also obliged, and I'm very, very happy to welcome and thank the Minister. Minister, you have been a great, great host. You're a symbol of Slovenian hospitality in your attitude, in your kindness, in your warmth, and in the way you deal with people. Dear friends, if I may say so, why is a Secretary General of a tourism organization in a Bled forum that talks about strategies? I'd like to share with you a few thoughts, hopefully to prelude what I hope would be a very fruitful panel tomorrow, and I'm hoping and looking forward to see all of you, many of you tomorrow. Today, we have 1.2 billion travelers that cross international borders every year as tourists. That, dear friends, is 1 out of 7 of the people of the world making an international trip every year. That is not a small thing. This is a huge human activity that is creating 1 out of 11 jobs all over the world, generating 10% of world GDP and 30% of world trade and services. But beyond all of this, tourism is the language of peace. You can never, ever hold feelings of animosity or hatred to people that you visited, share their food, listen to their music, talk to them. It's the best recipe for building peace and understanding. In today's world, we have many, many deficits. We have economic deficits, we have technological deficits, we have educational deficits, but the most significant, the most critical, the most important deficit that we must always keep in mind is the tolerance deficit. If we don't overcome that, we will never be able to get anywhere. And there is nothing better than travel, rubbing shoulders, meeting people, and have people get to know and understand other people that can make a difference in this world. Therefore, I'm here representing an industry that is not just about having good time, which is fine. Nothing wrong about having good time. It's an industry that can make great impact and change this world. We're an industry that puts smiles on the faces of people, people that visit and people that are visited. And we put income in the pockets of families that need it. This morning, I woke up early, unusually at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm one of the fortunate people in this hotel that have a room overlooking the lake. And I looked at the lake, and for a minute I stood like this. It was magic. It was pure magic. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I waited until 6:30 and 7, and the lights started to come up. And I was thinking in my mind, this is not Hollywood, this is not Disneyland, this is a real thing. It's amazing. And that scene put a smile on my face. And since then, the day went perfect. Yesterday, I made a bid with Eva. She said it's going to rain today, and she was very worried. I told her it's not going to rain. Because Slovenia is so kind to all of us, even in its weather. It managed to change. All the forecast today was about rain. Yet, we had a beautiful, beautiful day. We went to the castle. I spent here today, now, less than 24 hours. It's my first time here in Bled, not in Slovenia, but in Bled. And in these 24 hours, I've seen the beauty of this country. The beauty of this country is not just about the mountains and the lake and the beautiful green products that they have. It's this combination between place and people. Slovenians make you feel relaxed, makes you feel at ease, bring the best out of you. They don't impose themselves over you. They're very kind, they're very laid back, they're very relaxed, which is a very, very unique characteristic. I say this, I know, I shared some of these thoughts an hour ago in a meeting that I was honored to have with the Prime Minister of this country. And I told him, I've traveled the whole world. I can make a very objective comparative analysis. This is a beautiful country. It's a country that deserves the best. I don't know why anybody would want to live outside of this country if he's from Slovenia. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to promote this country. I'm here to promote the values behind the travel and tourism industry. That is the industry of the age. We're living in the age of travel. 30, 40, 50 years from now, the future generations are going to look back and say, that was the age of travel. That was the age that people roamed around the world without any obstacles obstructing them at all. We need to enjoy this world. Today, we're challenged with so many things. We'll be talking about them tomorrow. There are forces of darkness that are trying to hold us back and bring us back hundreds and thousands of years behind. And they're targeting our industry in particular. Why? If you really think about it and just take a minute, airports, hotels, gathering places, museums, beaches, restaurants, because they know that's where it hurts, because that's the real challenge that we have. It's a battle for life or the anti-life forces. And that's precisely why I should never give in. It's a global fight. We must fight it together. Must help each other. Never, ever let any country that's affected down. We need to support all of these countries. Because in the travel and tourism industry, we have a saying, no matter what our line of business is, and we are in very serious business, but no matter what our line of business is, our core business is to make this world a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. I think it was your presence here that made the weather better, for sure. So next year you have to come again. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you a keynote speaker of this evening, of this reception, our former president and the candidate for the Secretary General of the United Nations, Dr. Danilo Turk. Please, Dr.
Thank you, Peter. Let me start by first greeting our ministers, Secretary General Rifai, and all the friends who are coming regularly to Bled Strategic Forum. And let me promise you right from start that I'm not going to make a campaign speech. This is not a moment for campaigning, this is a moment for reflection and sharing pleasure with friends. And part of that pleasure has to do with the title, which was very wisely chosen for the Bled Strategic Forum conference this year, Safeguarding the Future. Now, on the first glance, it would look as if this is a paradoxical title. Why and how can one safeguard something that hasn't happened yet? But then again, if one thinks a little more deeply about this, one would understand that the future is not what will happen tomorrow. The future is what we are doing today. And by doing that today, we are producing what will happen tomorrow. In other words, this year, the Bled Strategic Forum reminds us of our common responsibility for the future. And the discussions which we have heard this afternoon demonstrated that participants here understand the challenge and the need to feel jointly responsible for what we do today in order to have what we want to have tomorrow. There was one thought that comes to mind, which was expressed this afternoon in a statement of one of the participants, not from the panel, but from the audience. I think Žiga Turk, former education minister of Slovenia, said, for politicians it is very important to distinguish feel-good policy and politics and do-good politics. And I think that this is something that every politician should think as the first question every morning before starting the work. How do we distinguish feel-good politics from do-good politics? I was in politics in Slovenia for a number of years, and I have often thought about this. Not every morning, I must admit. Because do-good politics does require to recognize mistakes, to admit that mistakes were made. And it requires a very careful choice about what will happen tomorrow and how does a politician change the world. Because politics has this unusual capacity of changing the world. Even if you don't do anything, you are changing the world by preventing possible improvement. And I think this is something that politicians have to be intensely aware of. And of course, this doesn't apply only to politicians at the level of national politics. A distinction between feel-good and do-good politics is very relevant at the international level as well. These days in Europe, we are thinking about the forthcoming summit in Bratislava, where exactly this dilemma will be the key dilemma before decision makers. Are we going to engage in a feel-good politics and satisfy ourselves with the slogan that we need a better European Union? Certainly we do. But what does this entail? How do we go about such things which were not accomplished in the past, such as deepening of the internal market? How do we do it? And are we able to use the summits like this to make real progress? Now, this is the distinction between feel-good and do-good politics, and we'll see what results will emerge. Now, the same dilemma appears at the global level as well. We have seen in the past years, that some disturbing developments are taking place. We have seen that in the trade area, for example, the impasse, perhaps even paralysis of global trade negotiations has produced space for inter-regional trade arrangements which per se are good, but which have to be connected into a global system. And if one thinks about the challenges before the G20, we just ended its work in Hangzhou in China yesterday, we can see how important this problem is globally. Now, obviously, there is some degree of symbolism in the fact that Bled Strategic Forum meets immediately after the G20 meeting in China. I'm not suggesting that we can aspire to the power level of the participants of the G20 meeting, but we have part of the responsibility. We have an important part of the responsibility which we share with the most powerful leaders of the world. And again, we are all in the same boat, distinguishing feel-good from do-good politics. And that applies also to the United Nations. In the United Nations, we have seen certain accumulation of questions which the organization was not able to address very effectively. And little by little, this has created a sense of a crisis. Now, my reaction to this is that this sense of a crisis is nothing fatal. This is an accumulation of problems which have to be addressed more vigorously and with a greater sense for collective, common responsibility. This is possible. This year we shall be commemorating 30 years of adoption of the UN Declaration on the Right to Development. I participated in drafting of that declaration 30 years ago as a young scholar. And I can tell you that the ideological divisions of that time, East-West and North-South, were so deep that we could hardly agree on very core principles of centrality of human person in development and the importance of development for human rights. Now we have a much better, much stronger platform. The Sustainable Development Goals which were adopted last year, the Agenda 2030, is really a very solid platform. And for all of us who have enough life behind us and enough memory to think about how much has improved, how much improvement has taken place between 1986 and 2016, we should feel encouraged. Of course, the challenges before us are enormous. We have to demonstrate that we are able to really move the world forward. But we have a platform which 30 years ago we did not have. And we should be really appreciative of that and encouraged by that. And finally, it is generally understood that no development can take place without security. And the question is the world today prepared to deal with the security issues, the global security issues, sufficiently effectively? Not necessarily at this moment, but I wouldn't rule out a positive development for the future. This is not an occasion to discuss in detail all the problems of global security and all the challenges that we have to address. But there is one thing which I think is worth mentioning on this festive occasion, and that is that it makes sense to work for a global security compact, something that would evolve over time, step by step, crisis by crisis, theme by theme, major security threat by another major security threat, into something that the Charter of the United Nations envisaged back in 1945. Permanent members of the Security Council working in concert. This is the biggest demand and the biggest need of global security today. And we have to make progress in that direction. Now, some people would say, well, this is impossible because we see the differences today. But let us not forget that, again, 30 years ago, American President Ronald Reagan declared that nuclear war cannot be won and therefore it should never be fought. Now, that looked rather optimistic, but that optimism was very energizing. It did produce progress in reduction of strategic arms and other progress in the area of nuclear weapons. We should be inspired by examples like this from more distant history in thinking about what we are doing today with full awareness that by what we are doing today, we are safeguarding our future. In this spirit, I would like to commend the organizers of this meeting to have chosen such an inspiring title. I would like to thank Peter Girk and the team to bring together this group and to make all the arrangements for the organization of the meeting. I would like to thank our minister, Mr. Karel Rijavec, for leading the process. I would like to thank everybody for coming here and giving me this opportunity to share with you some of basic concerns tonight. But of course, by saying this, I don't wish us to spend the rest of the evening discussing what I have said. Think about this. Think about this tomorrow when we meet again in our working sessions. In the meantime, enjoy this evening and have a good time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these inspiring thoughts. I have just two more things I need to do. First, I have to tell you to enjoy. And secondly, at 10 o'clock, we have a night owl session here in the Grand Hotel Toplice. And it's going to be very, very interesting. We are doing it with the Global Diplomacy Lab, a progressive think tank from Germany. And I hope you will be able to join us. So now enjoy, and thank you very much for coming.